Looking for something to read? Well, these are the books that I've written. Hop on down to the description to find the Amazon links for all 4 of them, and keep your eyes open for more in the future. With that said, on to the video. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm the Omni viewer, and I'm operating on very, very little sleep at this point, but news is news. That's not going to stop me from sharing my thoughts on the first full official look at the new Toho Godzilla movie, which we now officially know is not entitled Godzilla 0, but rather Godzilla -1. And apparently -1 is not just something they did as a little gotcha, you thought it was 0 kind of thing. It looks more like it has to do with the tone of the movie itself, where the tagline of the trailer says that in post-war Japan, Japan's lost everything, and it goes from 0 to minus. So apparently this movie is going to invoke the actual Godzilla threshold trope. You know, that trope in storytelling where things just get worse and worse, and somebody says, this could only possibly get worse if Godzilla showed up, and then who shows up but Godzilla? I mean, not literally all the time, but that's the basic idea. It's the worst possible thing that could happen when everything is already as bad as it can possibly be. Technically speaking, this is the first Godzilla period piece we've ever seen. There have been plenty of Godzilla movies that retroactively became period pieces because they were so steeped in their culture, like those psychedelic ones from the 70s in particular, but I think actually having something set in a past time with Godzilla, that's not something we've seen before in the movies. We've seen it like briefly in certain prologue segments, we've seen it in the comics certainly, but we've never seen it actually done in the movies. Although we have seen Godzilla in a Japan that is kind of in that time frame, because he originated technically in post-war Japan. 10 years after the bombing of Hiroshima, technically, and we see footage in here that makes it look like the bombing is still pretty fresh, but then again, we don't actually know when it takes place, now do we? It could be set like right in 1945, or it could technically be set any time after that, really. Any time like from 45 all the way up to the 50s. We don't know at this point. Even the official plot synopsis doesn't say anything more specific than post-war Japan. And, well, I guess we'll see how that plays out. I'm assuming they went there for a reason, and hopefully it's a reason that actually adds something. But of course there's also the reveal of Godzilla himself. A lot of people, when they saw the initial logo that was released last year, they were thinking that this stylized G somehow was hinting at what Godzilla would look like. And there were plenty of artistic interpretations, believe me, with the looping part supposed to be the tail, and this little bit at the end supposed to be the head, these are the spines, but a lot of us, I think, were just looking at it and saying, it's a G. It's just a stylized letter G. It's probably not really hinting at that. And it turns out it wasn't. The official look for Godzilla in this is basically one we've seen before, but not exactly. As you can see from this official image, it's very, very similar to the Godzilla that appears in Godzilla the Ride, which the movie's writer and director also directed the segments for. It's not exact. There are like really, really minor tweaks, but for all intents and purposes, it is the Ride version of Godzilla, which I'm okay with using that design. It's not a bad design. I think a lot of people were kind of hoping it would wind up in a movie at some point. It's kind of harkening back to the Heisei era, but with elements of Legendary, elements of Millennium, and, you know, given the chance to actually be in a movie, it could work. Now, we don't see that much of him in action in the trailer itself, of course. We only get a few fleeting shots. One of his feet crushing down on the streets as people are running, which actually looks like a shot that could have been taken out of the 1998 Godzilla in terms of how it's set up. It's in the daytime, not during like a rainstorm, broad daylight and all. But still, the composition of the shot, very familiar. And we get a brief look of his head as it's coming down to bite something. We don't exactly know what. And beyond that, we only see the effect he's having, which makes it seem like he's going to be more active than more recent versions of Godzilla, particularly from the Reiwa era. But does that mean he actually will be? That is the question. I mean, we're talking about a cumulative amount of footage of Godzilla that I don't even think amounts to 5 whole seconds. So it's really hard to say. Judging by how the trailer is cut, it seems like he's gonna be more active, more up and alert and moving around and perhaps showing a bit more expressiveness. The thing is though, I can't say that for certain. And considering that Toho has wanted an emotionless, stoic Godzilla ever since Shin was released, well, I can't necessarily put it past them that they kind of mandated it. Again, I don't know. I'm only going on what I can see, and what I can see here isn't much. I want to believe that it's going to be different. Then again, we've had 4 movies and a series made under Toho's watch that basically depicted Godzilla all in the exact same way. And I'm seeing a lot of people somehow, for some reason, acting like the Polygon trilogy doesn't count, so maybe there really is an active push to just sort of sweep that under the rug and pretend it never happened. But I don't know. I just don't know if that's actually going to be the case. Maybe they're willing to let this guy put his own particular vision into the film, just like they let Anno do his, albeit constantly pressuring him as well, from what I've heard. But I don't know. Like I said, it's shots of him that go by like that. So who can really say at this point? We also now have an official release date. It was always known that -1 was going to release this year, and they pretty much said it was going to release in Japan on November 3rd. But it's also apparently going to get an American theatrical release on December 1st. So we're gonna have to wait a little less than a month, -1 month, you might say, but apparently it's going to be here. Now, based on what I've seen, I'm only going off of what I recall from the one Forbes article that dropped early and what people have been regurgitating from that, so I'm trying to speak cautiously here. I've seen nothing that says whether or not it is a full theatrical release like what Godzilla 2000 got back in the day, or if it's going to be a limited release like what Shin Godzilla got. I haven't seen anything. If you know of anything that's clarified, please let me know. If it is a full theatrical release, I mean, that would certainly be cool, if the movie's good anyway, but I don't know, it might not be. So I'm gonna have to keep my eyes open on that one. That being said, I mean, Toho has been trying to branch out more, and this particular announcement comes after they've also decided to announce stuff like a permanent American edition of the Godzilla store, as well as online sites that will make access to Godzilla memorabilia easier to order for American fans. So who knows, maybe they are aiming for a full theatrical release. I mean, they tried in 2004 with Godzilla Final Wars, that didn't actually work out, but this seems like it was pretty official. I just don't know what the extent of it is going to be. But there's another bit of info that's been circulating, which I'm not sure what to make of. Now, here's where we get into the area where we're leaving behind the solid facts and the opinions that I can make based on actual observable things, and we're moving into the realm of stuff that's a bit more nebulous. Supposedly, the representatives from Toho said that Godzilla -1 shares continuity with Shin Godzilla. That is the exact quote that's been circulating around. Now, it's possible that that's a mistranslation or a misunderstanding of some kind. In fact, I'm kind of leaning in the direction of thinking that must be the case, because, first of all, it was announced a little while ago that Godzilla -1, back when we still thought it was going to be Godzilla 0, wasn't going to have any sort of connection to other films. It was going to be a standalone. There were no plans to produce sequels. It was just going to be its own thing. This statement, if it's accurate, is implying that it's already connected to a movie that already exists. So, which one is right? Like I said, I'm not quite sure about this latest bit of news, especially since there's no possible way it could be in continuity with Shin Godzilla unless we're about to get a gigantic retcon, or unless it also shares continuity with Men in Black, and the big twist at the end is that Will Smith will show up and neuralize the entire nation of Japan. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it would work. Shin Godzilla made it pretty clear that though the events in that film were the first time something like that had happened, and there's not that much wiggle room to say that we had a previous encounter like this, especially since the Godzilla appearing in -1 is clearly not the Godzilla who appeared in Shin. They are completely different. If it was supposed to be Shin Godzilla, I would expect it to be the wiggly-waggly tadpole Godzilla that we only saw the tail of in Shin before he made landfall. This is clearly a different thing. So, like, if it is in continuity with Shin Godzilla, does that mean there are two different kinds of Godzilla in this universe? Why wasn't the first iteration of Godzilla mentioned in Shin Godzilla if -1 is in continuity? I don't know. Like I said, probably a mistranslation of some sort, but maybe not. At this point, I really don't know. This is one of those nebulous things that I can only speculate on, and well, it doesn't make sense to me. But beyond that, nothing else to report. I mean, it's a very short teaser. We don't see much of Godzilla. We don't get a sense of who the human protagonist will be. We only see crowd shots, really. The special effects, I will say, do look impressive. So I'm hoping that at least it will be another visually stunning movie. But at this point, I can't really say all that much, even though I've already said enough to fill a video that's longer than the trailer itself. And I'm also sleep deprived, as mentioned, so I'm not even sure anything I've said actually makes sense at this point. I can only hope that it does. But anyway, that's about all I have to say at the moment, so now I'll turn the floor over to you guys and you can share your thoughts. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. Thank you all for watching. If you want to see us keep doing what we're doing, you might consider doing all the usual YouTube things, as well as hopping down to the description to find links to DeviantArt, Patreon, Twitter, and links for the different books in the Tales from the Omni Vault universe. Your support is naturally appreciated. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.